Surprising Steelers signing incoming as a report reveals a huge update in Pittsburgh. My name is Peyton Kleppy, and on today's episode of Steelers Digest, we'll be breaking down the latest Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers football team. As the Pittsburgh Steelers recently moved on from George Pickens, they may look to add this veteran receiver in free agency. Before we get into the video, if you guys are not already currently subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below. Only 9% of our current viewers are actually currently subscribed to the channel. So if you click that subscribe button, we will get you guys the latest Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Let's get right into it. The Pittsburgh Steelers could look to add a guy like Amari Cooper this offseason as they recently moved on from George Pickens. You know, obviously George Pickens was a guy who came into Pittsburgh, had a ton of success off the bat in Pittsburgh, ton of production. You know, he had 1,000 yards his second season in the NFL, and he was looking like a superstar for many years to come. But obviously, this dude had a ton of antics on and off the field, you know, not really off the field, but more so off the field in the press conferences and just some of the comments he was making. But obviously on the field, he was doing dumb stuff like doing gun signs for first down, complaining, doing dumb routes, not blocking. Like, it was a ton of stuff where he was really just hurting the team more than helping. So obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers did indeed move on from him. Got a 3rd round and a 5th or 6th round pick out of it. But, you know, we do need another wide receiver at that wide receiver 2 position. And we do have some guys in-house. Obviously, DK Metcalf, going to be our solidified number 1. We paid him to be. We're giving him a 5-year deal worth $130 million. The only guy I think who got more than that was TJ Watt a few years ago. He'll probably get more. His new contract is coming up. But anyways, DK Metcalf, we gave him a ton of money to come in, be our wide receiver number 1. I think he's the perfect archetype to do so. You know, perfect archetype. But, you know, we do need a number 2 wide receiver. So, like I said, the Steelers could look to pick up Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is a guy that obviously did get traded to the Bills last year. He originally did play with the Cleveland Browns a few years ago. He had a ton of success in Cleveland, and I believe it was only 2023. So, only 2 years ago, this guy was coming off an all-Pro Bowl, or I don't know if all-Pro, definitely a Pro Bowl season. Dude had like 1,200 receiving yards. I do believe he definitely had a few games where he had over like 200 receiving yards in one game alone. So, you know, this guy was a dog in the dog pan a few years ago. And, you know, he could look to come into Pittsburgh and revitalize his career under a guy like Coach Tomlin, an offensive coordinator like Arthur Smith. You know, just come in here and contribute automatically because this guy's going to be a veteran. He's going to know, hey, I only got a few more years left, so why not come into Pittsburgh, a winning franchise, you know, a historical franchise, and a franchise that will treat you right if you produce on the field, you know. And he's going to come back into the division, AFC North, you know, some hard-nosed, smash math football, you know. So we could look to see Amari Cooper in a Steelers jersey very soon with our buddy Aaron Rodgers, who dropped another update today on his status and how he might be playing in Pittsburgh. You know, a fan today asked him, why don't you come play in Chicago? And he did reply that he may be playing in Chicago, but obviously not for the Chicago Bears. It's either going to be for the Saints or the Steelers because the Pittsburgh Steelers do play Chicago next year in Chicago. So Aaron Rodgers could look to take his throne back over in Chicago and prove that he still owns the Bears. You know, if you guys have not known, Aaron Rodgers, obviously, he played his majority of his career in Green Bay, you know. And, you know, Packer, dude, destroyed the Bears almost every time he played them. So he'd love to finish his career out on a win in Chicago, and I think he dropped a major bomb today that will indicate that he will be coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers very soon. And hopefully we could get Amari Cooper along with him. You know, if we look at Amari Cooper's stats for the past couple of years, obviously he kind of had a last 2-year down stretch, you know, in Cleveland. Before he got traded, he only had 250 yards, only 2 touchdowns. But then he got traded to Buffalo last year, and, you know, he totaled for about little over 600 yards, you know, or not 600, excuse me, 500 yards, 4 total touchdowns. And, he was more of a later down the line contributor for the Buffalo Bills. He came in, they're expecting him to be another wide receiver threat for them, but he really did not do much. So he was really more so a later on addition at the trade deadline, as the Cleveland Browns knew they were going to tank and knew they wanted to move on from a contract that obviously they gave Amari Cooper. So, but before that, Amari Cooper was having a ton of success. Like I said, he had a little over 1,200 yards in 2023 to go along with 5 touchdowns. 2022, he had a little bit over 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. And then back in Dallas, this guy's last season in Dallas, he was no joke. He still had over 800 yards, 8 touchdowns. Year before that, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns. So, Amari Cooper is a guy that I do think could come into Pittsburgh and contribute right away. But it really be whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers are willing to spend some money on Amari Cooper. Obviously, he's going to be probably a few $1 million, and we recently just signed Robert Woods to a deal, so it would be a little uncharacteristic for the Pittsburgh Steelers to bring in 2 veteran wide receivers, but I could see it happening because Amari Cooper, he still has shown that he still is a pretty valuable receiver, pretty valuable player to whatever team he goes to, and the Pittsburgh Steelers could get him at a discounted price, as he really has not garnered much interest from many other teams. A guy that's still on the market as well is Keenan Allen, another veteran wide receiver who produced on his second team last year, and he's still on the free agent market, and the Pittsburgh Steelers could look to bring him in as well, or maybe instead of Amari Cooper, they bring in Keenan Allen. I don't know, but I do think the Pittsburgh Steelers will add another wide receiver at that wide receiver position, and I would not be surprised if they do actually pull that trigger and bring Amari Cooper in, because like I said, he still can produce on the field, and this guy also, he has never had any character issues, never any off the field issues, nothing. So, he's going to come into Pittsburgh, he's going to be well behaved, and he's going to show that he wants to win. He wants to win that Super Bowl. This guy's been in the league for a while. He's been on a lot of bottom feeder franchises. If we look at his career, started off in Oakland with the Raiders. Obviously, they're not good. Goes to Dallas. Obviously, they're not good. Then you go to the Cleveland Browns. You go to the playoffs. Next year, they're not good. Then you go to the Buffalo Bills. They get knocked out in the AFC Championship. So, obviously, his next career move could be coming to another winning franchise, get another shot at that ring, and Amari could look to come into Pittsburgh on a 1-year, 2-year minimum deal, show us what he's got. Unfortunately, that's all I have for you guys on tonight on Steelers Digest. If you guys are not already currently subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below. Here we go, Steelers. Peace out, boys.